Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this video, I'll be covering the network pane in Google Chrome's Web Inspector. So let me open that. Let me bring it. I think for this, it's better to keep it on the bottom. So let's go to the network. Actually, I would bring it on the right better. Yeah. So let me just collapse this. This is CodePen that I have it open here. It has a simple program which makes a call to, which makes a request on button click. So let me refresh the page first. Okay. So let's cover this area. First of all, let me collapse the filtration area so we have more real estate here. Okay. So at the top corner here, we have a record button. With this button, we can monitor new requests, and if it's red, it means it's recording any new request that is coming. But if I turn it off and then I click on this button, let me clear this out, nothing is happening, so it's not recording it. Let me enable it again, and then I click on it, it's recording now. And as you saw with this button, it's going to clear all the requests. So if we want to clear out all the requests here, we can just clear by this. And then you have filter area. So in the filter area, you have a bunch of useful filtrations here, which is if you choose to see all the requests at the same time, by default, it's all is selected. But if we are looking for XHR requests and JS requests or CSS requests or even images, we can filter them out by clicking on them. So right now there's no CSS. Let me refresh it. So as you can see, it's only showing me the JS requests here. Same with the CSS, same with the XHR. So this is useful here. And this filter here, it's very useful because if you want to isolate a particular request, you can type the part of the request here and it's going to filter out. For example, I have this request here, which is called channel. It starts with channel, so I can just write channel. And as you can see, it filtered out all the requests. And conversely, if I don't want to include channel, I can use minus sign in front of it, and it's going to remove the channel request and show everything else. So this is useful. And then you have hide data URL, which basically, if you have image as a data URL in the request, you can check this button and it's going to hide all those requests. Because usually we don't want to debug the data URL. So apart from that, we have filter log checkbox, which basically keeps all the requests, even if you refresh the page. So it's going to keep all the requests previously loaded. So I'll just show you how it works. So if I check it, as you can see at the bottom, it's showing 74 requests. And if I refresh the page, it doubled the amount because it's keeping the old requests at the same time. Let me uncheck this. Disable cache, basically it disables the cache whenever you reload the browser. And then you have this dropdown where you can kind of simulate the network conditions. For example, if you want to simulate slow 3G network, you can click on this and it's going to simulate the conditions in slow 3G network. If I click on offline, it's going to not fetch any requests. As you can see, it's showing everything in red, which denotes that there was a problem with the request. So let me just clear out, let me refresh everything. Okay. So at the bottom here, as you can see, it's showing you the number of requests that were made and the data transferred here. So if I disable the cache, you can see I can remove the cache by keep holding on to refresh button, and this pop-up will come up, and I can select this option here, so it will clear out the cache and load everything from the beginning. So as you can see, the size increased quite a lot because it's loading everything from the cache. If I refresh again, it's going to not load everything because some of it is loaded from the cache. And this is the total number of total size of resources here. And then you have a finish area where it's showing you how much time it took for all the requests to finish. And then you have DOM content loaded, which shows you how much time it took for DOM content to be loaded. And in this area, you can, let me just hide the filter. So in this area, you can see all the requests that happen. By default, it's ordered chronologically, and you can always click on the column here to order the request based on that specific column. For example, I'm right now clicking on the name, so it's ordered everything alphabetically. So then you have the size tab here, which is showing you the network, how much was transferred versus how much is cached or currently size of the resource. And this one, it's a waterfall. Basically, if I hover over this, it summarizes the network request and the details regarding it. I'll put a link in the description if you want to know about this in more details. So if you don't find these columns useful, you can always right click on them and click on hide or unhide. Conversely, if you find some of the other ones useful, for example, personally, I prefer to show this one, the method one, which shows me the method of the request. So I keep this enabled. So I prefer like this. So you can always show the ones you like and you prefer. So let me clear out this panel here. And I have this program, simple program, which makes a GET request to this URL. So before clicking on this, let me just filter out for my own request because it's showing me all the requests right now. So I just put the URL, part of URL here, and it's going to just show me that. So let me click make request. So let me click on the request itself to see what it has. So here it's showing the general request information, for example, the request URL, the method, and the status code. And then you have response headers. And here it's showing you the request headers, what have been sent as a request. And then you have query parameters. This is pretty useful because it can gather up all the parameters that have been sent. By the way, these are the parameters that I sent before, and it's being shown here. Let me go to the preview. In the preview, it shows the generic preview of the response. So if it was HTML, it would have given me a basic rendering of the HTML here. So in here, it's showing me the raw response that was returned, be it HTML or it could be JSON, whatever. It's showing me as a raw. And then you have initiator, which basically is a call stack of the request. Where was it made from? So in my case, it was made from the fetch data function. So it's showing me here. This is useful to pinpoint where the request was made from. And then you have the timing, which basically is a summary of the details of the request timing. So let me close this. So let's try to gauge some performance here for different requests. So let me just copy a bunch of code here, which loads some images. So let me bring out the HTML pane. Okay, so it's loading two images here, and let's try to simulate. Let's clear out the filtration here. I can click on this show overview checkbox, and it's going to give me a timeline of the request and how much time it did take to load that request. So let's try to simulate a slow network speed here. So we have these three pre-built options here, but I created another one which is ultra slow, and it's like 100 KB per second. So let me select this and let me refresh the page with the cache cleared out. So as you can see, it starts loading and it's showing me how much time is it taking for each of the requests to load. As you can see, it took a lot of time. So the requests are still loading, but meanwhile, we can see what's happening here. And let me order the request based on the time it's taking for them to load. So I want to see how much time it took for the images to load, because we might want to optimize our images. So I can click on the image here, and we can see that the first image, which is this one, it took almost 6 seconds, which is quite a lot. And the other image took 4 seconds. So I want to see what's the bottleneck that's holding our page very slow. So I can see in this case, we have a request which took almost 1 minute. So let me show you another way to debug the requests here, which are taking too much time. So I can click on the settings button here and click on the show overview tab. And let me hide this and bring this in front. So here, it shows me a timeline on which all the requests have been laid out. So with this tool, we can gauge our performance here. So let's say I want to see here that after the 1 minute mark, how many requests were loaded. So I can just click on here in the timeline and just drag a timeline like this. So what it's going to do, it's going to isolate the requests that were loaded during this specific time period. So I can kind of play with this. And as you can see, it's loading the requests. You just keep your focus here. So it's changing the number of requests that were loaded. So let's say if I want to see which request took the longest. So I can just play around with it and isolate the request that took too long. So let me just show you one more thing here, which is a request blocking. Basically, you can simulate a block request and see how it affects your page. For example, I want to block this image here, and I want to see how it's going to look if that image is blocked and for some reason the page is not returning. To open the request blocking, you can open the command menu and then type blocking. And I'll choose the first option, show request blocking. So here it will open this pane, okay? So with this, what you can do is basically add a pattern for the request that you might have in order to block that request. For me, I'll just copy this URL here and then place it here and then save it. And then I'm going to remove this and bring it back to online and refresh the page with the hard reset. So as you can see, it blocked that image and instead it's showing me how it's going to look if that image wasn't loaded. Just one more thing I want to show you here. Let me undo this first. So let's say you want to set a breakpoint for any specific request. So I can click on the sources panel here, and then I can go to this section of the page. So under XHR fetch breakpoints, you can add your own breakpoint for the request itself. So it says here break when the URL contains, so you can put a pattern here. I'll just put the part of the URL which I'm making the request to and press enter. So now it's going to put a breakpoint whenever this request is being fetched. So let me click on the button here. So make request. As you can see in the request, it triggered that breakpoint and stopped the code execution when that fetch request was being made. So yeah, I think I covered most of the things in the network panel. If you have any questions, please write down in the comments, so I'll be able to answer there. And thank you for watching.